by your man Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. And, of course, I had to bring some special guests today just to talk about what's going on in the world of sports. Of course, we've got from Sports Talk Florida, Miss Ruth the Truth. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And, of course, my man, Mr. Jake Rongholt. Jake, I hear you've got some big news, man, with concerning to your podcast and what you've got going on. What's up?
Yes, currently we're going to put the podcast on hiatus for a little bit during this pandemic. However, on social media, I'm going to be dropping a lot of both sides of the story takes. So the Turning Points brand will continue. You can find it every day on Facebook. It'll be on Twitter. There'll be links to it. Instagram will have a preview on it. So that's how we're going to be able to continue doing the Turning Points brand until this pandemic is done. And then get ready. We'll have guests. We'll be having fun again. And we'll be doing our top 5 turning points of the day, et cetera, et cetera.
Nice.
Awesome.
So before we got the show kicked off here today, we just kind of did a little roundtable as far as what we wanted to discuss. And you know what? Ladies first. I'm going to start with you, Ruth.
So I also wanted to bring up the whole XFL. I know a lot of people have been tuning in to the XFL. It's been doing great ratings, a lot of ticket sales. A lot of people have been paying attention to the XFL. Unfortunately, with the pandemic coming in, there was a fold with the league, and now the league is for sale. So there's a lot going on with that. By July 8th, we should be having a decision on who is going to be purchasing the league and pretty much the future of the league. So we'll be finding that out shortly. But there is a lot of drama within the league right now. The owner, Vince McMahon, fired Oliver Luck.
Hold on. You mean Vince McMahon?
Vince McMahon, sorry.
Yeah,
Vince
yeah.
McMahon
That's all
fired
good.
Oliver Luck. I believe it was April 9th. He was released from his duties. And Oliver Luck has fired back and is issued a lawsuit against the XFL about his wrongful firing. So there's been a lot going on with that. On some good notes, 29 of XFL players have been signed to the NFL, including Jacobs Patrick, who played for the Vipers, who I personally got to get to know. So congratulations to him and all the players that have been able to showcase their talents during a couple weeks that the XFL was going on, and they've had, opportunities to continue their careers, which is pretty exciting. But I mean, coming down to it, how do you guys feel of how the XFL did while it was here in the first couple weeks? Like, what do you guys feel about that?
Well, I thought it was a success at first. I mean, this time around, they were able to get ESPN aboard. They got Fox, so they had some top-ranked talent, including Steve Levy and Kevin Burkhardt. They had a lot of good abilities to create a good pregame. I mean, they had Diana Rossini, who's one of the top in ESPN, doing the sideline reports. I thought that was pretty cool. I like the new rules that they had with the XFL, especially that kickoff rule where you can't touch it, where the ball, once it goes down, and you have to wait until he starts running, and then that's when you're able to make a hit. Otherwise, you got to stay put. So I like that. I love the pacing of it. I thought it was very exciting. I like the coaches with the sideline conversations with the quarterbacks. I thought that was really good. But overall, it just feels like, once again, it's like the Alliance of American Football League. They had the same problem with Tom Dundon, who came in to try and save Charlie Ebersol, and now they're having the same kind of controversy and kind of a messy situation now with Oliver Luck and Vince McMahon. And it just goes to show right now, if you're going to create a league, you got to make sure that all your ducks are in a row and that you have a plan B in case of a pandemic or a natural disaster or something. Because of that, now we are getting this he said, she said kind of thing back and forth, except it's two men going back and forth with Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who appreciates the game of football just as much as the two of you, I completely agree. This product was something that I thought a lot of people could, really appreciate, kind of sink their teeth into, and it gave us 10 to 12 more weeks of football. I mean, Ruth, you and I both know from being in Raymond James and actually watching the Vipers, you had 15, 16,000 people coming out every single home game. Even when the Vipers were 0-3 to start, you still had that crowd there. They were there. They were supportive. We had the opportunity to watch them get their first win, interviewing the players, just that camaraderie. You felt it when you were there. So I hope that whoever takes over the XFL really kind of embodies the best practices that happened from this previous league, from the previous league, and kind of moves that forward. Because if they can at least put that product back out again, they can make the money, they can be successful, and this is something that could go on for years. It really could.
Right. So some of the allegations that Vince was having against Oliver was saying that he was being negligent of his duties once the pandemic kind of kicked off. They said that around March 13th, he left the office and went back to his home in Indiana. And he felt like as a person in his duties that he definitely didn't stand up to his job. I wanted to get your take on how you guys feel about him going home. I mean, I feel like everybody went home because not much was going on with sports, but I mean.
Well, it's kind of a tough situation with Oliver Luck, because you have to understand during this pandemic, we had no idea. We still do not know how severe this will continue to get here, because we are right now living in a society where 25% capacity in restaurants, you have to wear a mask in stores like Publix and Sam's Club and Walmart and all that stuff. Otherwise, you can't shop. And right now, I don't blame Oliver Luck for going home. I mean, he has a family. He has, payments to make. He has to, be able to make sure to protect himself. So I understand that, but I'm not really sold with what Vince McMahon said, because you got to be honest here. NHL laid off everybody. They furloughed all their employees. They all said, go home. We don't know what is going to happen here. But it also goes to show with Oliver Luck, he should have already had a plan with Vince McMahon. They should have went through some ideas, talked to the players, talked to the coaches, and say, okay, how can we focus on this so we don't lose the league? And because of Oliver Luck having that quick reaction, here we are in this situation. So I kind of feel like there is partial blame for Vince and Oliver, because they did not have a plan ready, and they pretty much threw the players to the side, and it looks disgraceful.
Yeah, Jake, I definitely agree with you there, just because, I mean, this pandemic has been going on. We've heard of it back in December. So having a plan B and C was definitely necessary. And I wish, I hope that they can come to terms and things can work out, and we could see the XFL in the future. Can I get your take on it, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as a kid, I watched WWE. I grew up as a wrestling fan, and even into my mid to late 20s, I was still following it. The one thing I will tell you is, if there is a model for consistency when it comes to business, it is Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. He is all about the dollars. Even at 70 years old, he is still, at the very least, a 25% owner of the WWE. It's a billion-dollar industry. They have the WWE Network. They're still putting on 3 times a week live shows with no fans. So Vince is still raking in the money. Do I agree with you, Jake, that him and Oliver Luck and his son Shane should have had some type of, contingency plan, a B, a C, a D, a E, whatever it was? Yes. But I cannot blame Oliver Luck for the decision that he made, given the fact that we still, even today, don't know how long this is going to last.
Right.
Did he make a judgment call? Yes, but I think it was one that better was fit for his family. He did what was best for his family, and the consequences of that were he put his family before the business. You do, in some regard, owe Vince an explanation, and when Vince doesn't get what he wants, guess what? He moves on from you.
Right. Another point that he had brought up during this lawsuit was that Luck had signed wide receiver Antonio Callaway without his approval, and he also disobeyed his orders when he asked to release him. Now, Vince made a point in the beginning of the season that he didn't want players that had all these background issues, and we all kind of know a little bit of the history of Callaway and his issues off the field. Now, do you agree with Luck's decision, and do you think that maybe he kind of overstepped in that regard when it comes to signing wide receiver Antonio Callaway?
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
McMahon runs the league,
but
you hired Oliver Luck to be the commissioner. So regardless of what Oliver Luck's responsibilities are, it still goes through Vince McMahon. He even said that back in 2017. He wanted a different brand of football. He didn't want guys that were making noise off the field to bring it on the field. And Antonio Callaway got busted numerous times at Florida, and at Cleveland, and that's why the Browns pretty much sent him away. If Oliver Luck seriously did not coincide with Vince McMahon about this, that's a problem, because honestly, the XFL was clean. They had good players in there. There were no issues off the field. And then you bring in this guy who was not able to keep his head straight on with Cleveland. Now you bring him in here. That's just doesn't make any sense. That's like them saying, hey, Josh Gordon, why don't you come on in, even though the NFL is giving you 10 straight chances.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
in Luck's defense, he was saying that, Vince had told him that he needed to bring more electrifying players on field. So Luck, felt like he was doing his job. And, and that's why that was his argument against releasing Callaway. Eric, let me get your take on that.
Yeah, but okay, so here's the thing on that. You can have electrifying players on the team or in the league, shall we say, but those electrifying players are also not knuckleheads off the field. I can name several former NFL players who were electrifying on the field but kept their nose clean off the field. They were more of a community advocate. They were more about the social injustices. So there is that delicate balance. Now for Luck, if he decided that he looked at something and said, well, if the NFL is going to give certain guys second chances, maybe if we take him out of the NFL's mold, bring him into our structure, bring him into our organization, perhaps we can get him to, turn around, if you will, and be not only a serviceable guy in the XFL, but be serviceable as far as being, I'm going to follow the straight and narrow outside. Vince is looking at background histories, and to all the points that Jake made, it just didn't seem right. But again, at the end of the day, Vince is making the call. And if Vince says no, guess what? Got to move on.
Yeah, for sure. His last point against Luck was him violating his XFL policy of his use of his business phone that was given to him by the XFL. And Vince was saying that he was using it for personal use. And they've actually obtained that cell phone to be, for them to be able to do forensic things to figure out what exactly personal use meant. What is your take on a cell phone being a huge issue with that?
See, this goes back to Hillary Clinton and her having, using her phone and having business emails sent to her phone. So that's just it's a very slippery slope. That's a rabbit hole I'm not really ready to go down. I mean, honestly, if you're given a phone and you're told, listen, this is strictly for business, we are going to monitor your calls. If the ground rules have all been set in place, then guess what? Unfortunately, for Oliver Luck, you're going to lose that fight, because unless the guidelines are put in place, I don't even want to think about that. I mean, because, I don't know.
True.
It sounds like an episode of Billions, honestly. I'm waiting for Chuck Rhodes or Axe to, come out and talk about their football team or something. But it kind of feels like this. If they can't get a mediator to get Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck into a room together and work this thing out, they could possibly be trying to build up a case against them and might take this to court. It's a possibility, because keep in mind, Oliver Luck did sue Vince McMahon for wrongful termination. So that is coming out of the woodwork as well.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So overall,
Jake,
I felt like the XFL did a great job with, the short amount of time that they had. And I'm hoping that we see more of the XFL coming back next year, hopefully.
I hope so, too. There was a lot of great talent that was really, cutting their teeth on there. And Connor Folk, I was following him a lot. I thought Ben Fennella did a good job as well. He was part of that. So it's just a bummer to really see such a lot of great talent, a lot of young talent and veteran talent that were able to, really open up a little bit and try this. It just kind of shames me. Hopefully, if they do decide to bring the XFL back, they better bring back ESPN and Fox, and they better give them a lot of money out of this, because that's the only way I could see this product working. You're not going to put it on the Paramount Network. It was a disaster with CBS. So you have to understand, if you're going to do this, you've got to do it right.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. So Jake, I know we were talking and you had mentioned about, and I had seen this as well, being down here, the whole world of baseball thing. And you had a very, I can see by your facial expression, my brother, you've got something, talk to me about it, man.
What's on your mic, Jake?
Well, first off, I want to give credit where credit is due because the NBA has not done a very good job trying to come up with a blueprint to bringing back their sport. The NFL has done a good job, but I thought the best one was Major League Baseball coming out with this 80-game schedule and then having 7 postseason teams play it out, and let's get this thing back on track. However, the owners made a big mistake because what they did was they set up their own little war and didn't realize that they don't have the power that the MLBPA does. Instead of doing, they agreed in March back to a prorated pay when this pandemic hit. The players agreed, and then that's all they wanted. However, because of the money that they are losing in the ballparks, the concessions, and the broadcasting contracts, they are looking now for revenue sharing, and the MLBPA is not playing ball. However, the biggest problem was MLBPA opening their mouth, including Tony Clark, who is the president, who decided to be as tone deaf as possible during a pandemic and make this thing about money. And it just paints this black eye across baseball because it was unnecessary. If the owners would have just specifically stuck to the prorated pay, or at least talked to Tony Clark throughout this whole situation and say, look, we're not making money. We need to be making money, and this is the only way we're going to be able to do it. Now you got Blake Snell out there right now whining about his $7 million. You got Trevor Bauer out there saying it's laughable, and now this is a big mess, and I don't see any way that this is going to be able to happen in July even. Actually, if the players do not agree to this, if MLB does not come to an agreement, honestly, I don't need the sport. I don't need to watch it, because when you're coming out like this and looking like an entitled person during a pandemic where people are losing their homes, hanging on by a thread, wearing masks out there like it's a suggestion, and watching the stock market go up and down pretty much like a game of Pong, you got to understand there are so many bigger problems out there than just you and your money. And I just think it was absolutely unnecessary and disrespectful to go down this road, because now you're telling fans, well, look, I need to get my $7 million. You know what fans are going to say? That we don't need you.
Right.
So
absolutely. Because it's supposed to be for the love of the sport. I mean, I understand you need to get paid, and I understand, you know, the risk of you going out there with this pandemic going on, but I don't know. I don't really agree with how some of these players have come out of their mouth about the situation. It's kind of made them look a little selfish in a way, you know?
So
and
let me play
devil's
devil's
fans thinking.
So let me play devil's advocate with both of you here for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Let's take away that they're athletes, okay? This is the money that was given to them to do their job, all right?
Right.
However, in the midst of this pandemic, if these people, these athletes, don't feel comfortable going out there and doing their job, do they not have the right to express their feelings about this?
They do, but they're creating such a slippery slope on this. I mean, you have to find that compassion and the understanding that, you know, all of this is going on right now. But, you know, Blake Snell was on Twitch, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was, hey, I'm not going to take a reduction in pay. I'm making $7 million this year.
Yeah.
Right out the gate, the fans are going to look and go, I don't care. I got bigger problems happening here, pal. I just lost my job. Why should I even give a damn about what you are trying to do here? And if you would have just been more compassionate and understanding to the situation, then this would have never happened. But because of the way Blake Snell and Trevor Bauer are handling this, it's a mess. I mean, Charlie Blackmon was on Rich Eisen, and he said perfectly, it's not about the money. I want to play baseball. And it might come to this point where some players may just say, look, I'll sign on the dotted line, and if there's enough on this vote, I'm going to play. If others decide not to play, well, then that's their loss, and they believe that they're making the right decision. But you have to figure out something here, because now you just created this big mess for nothing, and here we are back at the drawing board.
Yeah, I agree with Jake 100%. And, I mean, if you're cutting the games in half, then shouldn't you be getting paid somewhat less? You know, that would only make sense. So for some of these players, you know, the way that they've been handling it with, you know, coming out to the media and just the way that they're coming across to the fans, it's not really a good look for a Major League Baseball.
And what are you saying? Because this is a team game. What are you saying to your teammates that have said, I want to play baseball. I want to just get paid. I just want to be able to be making a living doing what I love. So, I mean, even if it's Blake Snell, so what are you telling Charlie Morton? What are you telling Kevin Cash? What are you telling your teammates on this? And then same with Trevor Bauer. What are you telling everybody that wants to be back? I mean, like I said, Blackman came out and said, I want to play baseball. I want to get back out there.
Right.
And instead came up with this entitlement, and it comes off badly.
Yeah.
Everybody always says words always can find a way to hurt people, and it did.
Well,
right.
yeah.
Coming off of what Eric said, you know, if they weren't athletes, if they were just regular people, I mean, when it comes to a job title and working for, you know, under an umbrella, under a company, you have to do what's best for your company, you know? I mean, that's just the type of attitude I had. Like, my job called me today and they said, Ruth, are you coming back to work? You know, we understand if you don't, but if you want to come back to work and be on board. And I said 100%, let's get this ball rolling. I want to be a part of the process of picking things back up and making something better of the situation. So that's how I feel like maybe athletes should be looking at it.
Yeah, in my situation, I'm doing the same. Every 2 weeks, I'm checking in with the people I need to. So because I got to be confident in this, and the people I have talked to that are my connections, are my friends, they've all told me the same thing, that who have been in the business. Just be patient. Just understand, you know, this is happening for a reason. Everybody else is in this situation just like you. And, you know, that's all it's got to be. You just got to keep your sanity, and you have to understand that some of the stuff you're saying nowadays is not going to would have come off just fine before this pandemic, but during this, it's a whole new ballpark. And right now we want to know if you're going to be invited or not.
Yeah.
For sure.
And speaking of that, you know, one last topic I definitely want to talk about with the two of you is the fact that along with Arizona, Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, has said that pro sports are allowed to reopen in the state. And even so far as today, you know, the Orlando Magic training facility, Advent Health over there in Orlando, is open, and players had gone in to start practicing. So, you know, what is this saying about – I talked to Mike yesterday in Arizona, you know, about the whole situation. And Mike even said, he's like, Eric, this is a way for us to kind of try to start to rebuild this economy. I feel like Florida's doing that. I feel like the phase process is going to, you know, work well with us kind of transitioning slowly back into the workforce. But I want to get, from a sports perspective, I want to get both of your guys' thoughts and feelings about how soon do you think it's going to be before other teams outside of Florida, maybe like, you know, Ruth, in your case, maybe they take over Disney for a little while to be able to play the rest of these games.
I'm all for that.
Or you know, we have the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League, the Grapefruit League. If the teams come here and play their games here, because we do have the facilities in the stadium to do it, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like since Florida and Arizona are taking those first steps, everybody's going to kind of see where we're at and see how we are affected by it. And then people will slowly start to, you know, follow suit, which I feel like is okay. You know, being in Disney where they are talking about, you know, hosting these games, I just want them to be as safe as possible, providing testing to these players and doing things the right way. For example, the restaurant that I'm going to be working at, they are going to be temperature checking people before they come into the building. And anybody that refuses a temperature check will not be allowed in our building. They have to protect the workers. They have to protect the people that help this place run. So I'm all for it. You know, I'm a little skeptical about how soon that, you know, things might be coming up, but as long as we're taking the right medical, you know, precautions and keeping the workers as well as the players safe, I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good step forward, but it's only a baby step. I mean, you got Arizona and you got Florida. That's good. But, I mean, you also have to understand, if the NBA wants to truly get this thing rolling, they have to find a way to be able to get all of these teams together, be able to get on a plane or on a bus or something and get them down here to Florida. Also understanding that they have to, you know, leave their families. They have to leave where they live. And I don't think it's all going to be unanimous with that. And also another thing with Arizona too, with baseball, I mean, we had that idea that was coming out, and the players were not sold on that. Even though Charlie Blackmon said on Rich Eisen that he'd be fine with it, not everybody is going to come down to it. So they have to find a way. Even though Arizona and Florida are open, you got to understand California is still going to be closed. New York is still going to be closed. Connecticut, all of these places. I am shocked that Florida is open for business right now because it's in the top 5 of the death rate right now for the COVID-19. So unless Florida starts to lose that and watch that death toll drop a little bit, then the players will start to get that understanding, and then they will be a little more open-minded to it. But if anybody is believing that this is going to be just a slam dunk, we're going to get right back into sports, we'll see you in June, I don't see that happening, because we could be living in a year where we would have no college sports, and that pro sports will start late. Like I'm talking NBA might start in July, NFL would start in October, NHL would possibly move out to August. So if anybody believes right now that we are getting closer to the finish line, we are not, but there is still light at the end of the tunnel. But like I said, it's going to come down to the 2 most powerful players associations out there. That's the NBA and that is Major League Baseball. And until those 2 come to an agreement with their leagues, we're going to be waiting around here and going to be continuing to talk about Last Dance and, hey, what's your favorite movie? And just trying to be able to bring out any kind of sports content possible. Because right now, even the top guys are having difficulty trying to stay on the air.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're definitely right. Hey, thank you both for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Ruth the Truth, Sports Talk Florida, and my man, Jake Rongholt. Both sides of the Turning Point and on a slight hiatus, but Turning Point podcast, check him out. We're definitely going to do this again. Thank you both. Hey, please stay safe, stay healthy. And Ruth, going back to work, we're thankful that you're going back, but please stay healthy out there.
I will. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jake, have a great night. I'll talk to you guys soon.